Hello, my friends. I'm happy to be here with you today. I have a very special guest, good friend of mine, Michael Mahy. I am going to be blessed. Hey, Mike, I'm going to be blessed with his simple presence and his powerful wisdom and his awesome smile. I love this guy. We were in a coaching group together a while ago. We both graduated and we are both building our business with joy and abundance. And of course, this is Dean Brown, Coach Dean Brown, and I'm happy to have you here today. And for those of you that know me, I am a law of attraction coach. I help professional men and dads, and I'm happy to have you here. I'm a brother to those that know me and a friend to those that don't. And looking forward to hearing from Mike. So, welcome, Mike. Happy to have you.
Yeah, thank you, Dean. It's great to see you in action. I mean, I've heard a lot from others about your interviews and podcasts and all the amazing stuff you've been doing, and helping people to share and broadcast and connect the world, all like-minded people. So thanks for having me on, man. It's great to see you in action as well.
Yes, brother. Yes, and it's been a while. We've had a few technical difficulties over the while, getting our links to work and getting you in a place where there was solid Wi-Fi and a good schedule and all that sort of stuff. We all go through that, so I knew of persistence and good spirits, and we'd get through there without any issues at all, my friend. So I'm happy to have you here. So I'm gonna let you have the floor here with the first question that I like to ask everybody. So, my friend, I'm gonna ask you to share your story and what it is that inspired you to start what you're doing. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Dean. So, my story always starts with a sense of curiosity and a sense of adventure, and there's also a sense of loss and death and rebirth. Not trying to sound too dramatic, but that's kind of how it all went about. I mean, as a young guy coming up, I'm from Barbados in the Caribbean originally. Been living in London for the last 10 years. I left Barbados at the age of 40, right before the age of 40, and came up to the UK with the family. And it was all around, family obligations and stuff like that that got me over here. But back in Barbados, I was a scuba diving instructor, a water sports and diving business owner for well over 20 years. And what got me into that was just a real connection and a love for nature and the ocean. Even as a young kid, going back a little bit, if you don't mind, whenever I was stuck anywhere, I didn't understand some relationship or some conflict or maybe some punishment I was under. I would always go outside at night, especially at night, and look at the stars and look at the moon and just look up there and just talk to the stars and the moon almost as a way to connect, understand a higher purpose. And even though I never got any answers back, like verbally, right? I always had a sense of a connection, of a weight that came onto me and it pieced me out and it let me kind of almost know in my subconscious that it's going to be all right and the answers are there even if you can't articulate them right away. So anyway, fast forward a bit, I got into scuba diving at 14. I opened my own dive center at 24. And during those years, I was really, really on purpose. My purpose was clear, my vision was clear. And I didn't even actually know I was on purpose. And on my vision was, living my vision and living my goal out. But what I recognized is that when a certain time came and I went through this process where I was in flow for a long time, 12 years, just flowing everything. And what I recognized is that I was in a place where I was observing and learning. Okay. And in that state, I was always in a state of compassion, empathy, excitement, and passion for what I was doing and with the people I was doing it with and the environment. Everything was just connected in a line. But
Beautiful.
somewhere along the line, as what happens to everyone, I think we go through some changes when we get through like our mid 30s, and then I started to harden a bit, and I stepped out of that flow state that I was in. That I wasn't even aware I was in, but I stepped out of it, and I became more analytical and more judgmental. So I left that sort of physical embodiment of what I was doing and went into the conscious mind and started to just feed into analyzing and judging people and situations. And that led me to become, like I said, quite hard and judgmental and arrogant and not as warm and as loving as I used to be. And due to that, I suffered some professional losses in my diving career where I wasn't able to teach diving the way they used to anymore, just because I wasn't connecting, to everything that I used to connect before. So
Right.
when I left Barbados, I left it under a kind of a cloud, even though I was moving on to different adventures. I became an industrial diver. I learned to weld underwater and do underwater construction, basically. And it was a great sort of skill to acquire, but I didn't realize how lost, unhappy, and invisible I felt in this new realm, and one of the reasons for that is because how I left the old realm and entered this one was not in a cohesive way. So
Yeah.
what I was, and I love traveling and I love adventuring, so I still kept up a sort of an optimism about life and about myself, even though inside there was a lot of darkness and a lot of anger and resentment. On the outside, I still kept up my optimistic smile and all this kind of stuff. So I went traveling with my family, and I met this young lady, and I showed her the basics of scuba diving because she was really afraid, and I just talked her through it, and she went on to get her diving license, and she really thanked me for that way of connecting with her and with the ocean environment. And she said, "Well, have you ever tried coaching?" And I said, "Well, I never heard of it." So as promised, when I went back to the UK, she sent me some links online and of some coaching schools to follow. And I signed up. I signed up for my fundamentals coaching, and then it was just like wham, you know, I got basically hit with a mirror. Okay, and
Yes.
which is what I like to call a dark mirror, because what is reflected back is not pleasant.
That's right.
um, it's painful. It's an emotional upheaval. So I went through a big transformation all through my coach training. Even before I had any clients or before I had even thinking about getting clients, it was all about me just trying to heal myself
Yeah.
before I was even in a place to heal anybody else.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
and I wouldn't say that I'm over learning, because I think one thing for sure is that I am a teacher and a student, and that position rotates like constantly in all
Absolutely.
the time. It never ends. So nevertheless, I decided a few years ago to actually, yeah, to create a coaching business, and and that's got me basically here today, meeting you and understanding all the pros and cons about marketing and advertising and targeting and all this kind of niche and all this stuff that's necessary.
Yep.
But obviously, yeah, and that's what's got me here today.
Beautiful, beautiful, powerful message too, Mike. And I appreciate the sharing right from the beginning, because a lot of people don't realize that the depth of their past has so much power with respect to their present now and what they do and how they feel and what they think and so on and so forth. So, as a law of attraction coach, that's a big part of how we manifest our best future. And I'm very, very honored to have you share that with us. Thank you so much, my friend. So when you went through all of this, what would you consider to be your biggest lesson in all of that?
Yeah, the biggest lesson, one of the biggest lessons is compassion, self-compassion. And understanding that we have two types of intelligence. We have your emotional intelligence, which I like to call our physical intelligence, and we have also our actual mental intelligence, and they need to be, they're one whole thing.
Yes.
And when the thought comes in, that thought gives you um, an emotion,
Yep.
and and then what, not depending, and then that emotion then feeds back to your brain and tells your brain, what's going on. So when you get into that cycle, it's very, very important. One of the biggest learnings I've learned is to be able to observe my thoughts
Yes. Yeah.
and recognize that old memories of old emotions and old situations reoccur, and they try to reoccur because they want to maintain they want to maintain the status quo.
Yep.
What's that term? Homeostasis. They want to keep things as they are,
That's
and if
right.
things as they are fantastic, great. But if they're not, not so great, right?
Right.
So So, the ability to change and transform and grow is very, very, it's all about self-awareness, and it's also about self-compassion, because you
That's
need
right.
to observe with love. You
That's right.
need to make your changes with love,
That's right.
and not with, oh my God, I can't believe that you're 50 years old and you're going through this stuff all the time. What's wrong with you? You gotta be kidding. That kind of thing is just not is gonna, it's just not gonna work. So that's my
That's right.
biggest learning. Yeah, be compassionate, be self-compassionate, and have that ability to be really, really as self-aware as to what you're thinking, how you're acting, and how you're being.
Beautiful, beautiful. I just wanted to acknowledge that we have one of my mentors online right now listening to us, Jen Murray. She's one of my great mentors, a great coach for me, and I really appreciate it. And she's appreciating our message right now, my friend. So I just wanted to share that with you so you'd know, and make sure that as we go forward, that we always have an impact on people. We always have that ability, not only to when we delve into that area of self awareness and self love, as I like to call it, because I was taught something very negative when I was younger, and that was how to be betrayed. And it took me out of love and into what I thought was the opposite of love, which at that time, my misperception was that the opposite of love was hate. And I went through a lot of hate and I went through a lot of pain. And I can appreciate where you are, because you've similarly went through a lot of growth, because you realized that you left that place of compassion and peace when you went into that analytical state, and you became a different person, and you realized that you've left behind your happiness. And when we do that, it's a great lesson, because that's when we start to go down rather than up. When we've been separated from our happiness, it's very, very damaging. And if we don't catch that path, we can go and damage other people with that. And you expressed how your clientele were noticing that, and you had them dropping off, and so on and so forth. And now that you're a life coach and you have this great power of self-compassion, you know that is key in order to have compassion for others. And so when we have compassion for others like that, we end up appreciating not only ourselves, but what we learn from others, as well as those others in our lives and in our businesses. So that brings me to the next. I'm wondering, who would have you consider to be your greatest influence in your life?
Um, my greatest, yeah, so greatest influence. I mean, my dad actually, my father is a really, um, he's an amazing person. I always say he's the coolest guy I've ever met. And I'm not even just saying that because he's my dad, because I'm very, when I'm being very authentic and very honest as much as I can be, and every single minute of the day, what he has represented for me is that ability to he has an ability to create a space for everyone
Cool.
and for himself. So when I was the firecracker that I used to be, and I would be ready to jump up and and judge or act or fly off your handle or whatever, he would always say to me, like, you don't know what kind of day this individual has had. You don't know
That's
what
right.
kind of life they've had. You don't know what kind of lessons or trauma they've been through. So just take it easy, take a breath, and just and let it be. And he's been like that forever, and he's still like that. He's the warmest, most welcoming sort of spirit that you could, a non-judgmental kind of guy. You could come up to him and say, Doc, X, Y, and Z happened, and he would just kind of slightly raise his eyebrows and nod and say, okay, well, tell me about it, right? So I kind of observed and learned from him, you know, just visually, and perhaps it has brought me again to where I am, for that desire, as you said, to go deeper. And if you
Yeah.
remember that diagram with the head and the brain, you got the conscious mind, and then the arrow goes down into the subconscious, and then you have all the pluses and minuses in there that you want to work on disconnecting or connecting with. So yeah, he's a big, and also this referring to the same diagram from the book. We spoke about it briefly earlier on. Dr. Joe Dispenza, how to how to stop becoming. So you remember
So
the
I got the book right here, my friend. Hang in there.
yeah.
This book right here, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself.
Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. That's right. Yeah, fantastic book. I've listened to it on audiobook, and it goes into a lot about meditation. It goes into powerful things like unlearning old habits and recognizing thoughts and I literally was speaking to one of our colleagues from the from our last marketing seminars and stuff, and he suggested it for me to read it, and I just put it on audiobook, and I was blown away because it's not that some of the angles are new, but it's not really new.
No.
But it's kind of like it arrived at the time when my mind is fertile, and it was looking for more connection and more articulation, so it
Absolutely.
gets clearer for me and clearer for the world. And it's amazing piece of work. And as you asked, there's another one called the Chimp Paradox, and I don't remember the name of the guy who wrote it, but it's a really powerful book, just talking about the the survival brain and how there's a constant battle in our minds between survive and thrive.
Yes.
And that I found really powerful as well. Understanding how we want to be safe, we want to be comfortable, we want to be protected, and that's only natural. But our brains are millions of years old, and understanding that those emotions and feelings that come from the survival mind they don't relate in the same way in the 21st century. So how to let go, again, unlearn,
That's right.
certain
Yeah.
characteristic traits that we would have picked up growing up.
I think the phrase you were looking for earlier was how to lose your mind and create a new one.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. How to lose your mind and create a new one. Yeah.
That's the second part of Joe Dispenza's title there. And it's actually the lower part of in smaller text, so you couldn't see it. But yeah, that's the challenge we face today, my friend, is being aware that that monkey paradox, or that chimp, what was it, the chimp paradox he said?
Paradox, yeah.
That is the ego, in my experience, and the ego is what keeps us separated from our spiritual self, which keeps us from growing. It keeps us in the comfort zone, as you said. And something I've come to learn is that there's no growth in the comfort zone, and there's no comfort in the growth zone. And it's right, because they're the opposite. They're the polar opposites. It's like you mentioned how you look in a mirror, and when you see everything backwards, or the opposite when you do that. As much as you see the reality of the current moment, everything's flipped, right? So, and that is the power of our ability to learn, when we're able to be in that place and to realize that what we need to do is to flip everything and not stay by the old patterns, and actually come up with a new pattern in order to have that new growth, that new place in our lives, that new next level in our spiritual awareness. And yeah, that's a powerful lesson that we all need to learn and embrace. So yeah, brother. And there's, that kind of makes me wonder, there's had to be something in your life that you realized was a lie, and the biggest lie that you were dealt, or a myth, if you want to call it that. What would you how would you speak to that particular concept of, what's the biggest thing you want to debunk with, and what you face more than anything else with your clients?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. The biggest lie, so to speak, or the biggest sort of I think it's that, that you have to be one way, that you have to be the way, like, for example, categorized by the way you look, or the way you come from, or even your past. You could be an addict, you could be come out of prison for 20 years, you could be an abuser of some kind, and to be, and not to be boxed in by anyone's sort of opinion or thoughts of you, that you can grow and thrive from the greatest adversity, and and be an inspiration, and an inspiration, so much so that you lead people by example. And I think the reason why that's a big revelation for me is because I spent all of my life. I mean, I've never had a job in an office, never been in a corporate environment, apart from when I'm maybe going in there to have a business meeting or something, but I never worked in that environment, because it never when I was flowing, it was never along the river path that I was on, right? So I never judged anybody for being there, but it wasn't for me.
That's right.
But then when the dark mirror got held up, like I was saying before, I actually believed that a guy from the beach or a guy from the ocean or a guy from the underwater or whatever could not exist outside of that environment. That in a place like the UK or wherever is like, nah, man, that's it. I'm done now. I'm gonna have to conform to some, to some limited belief set of actions and belief patterns. So, but I think my biggest learning is that you don't. We are energy. We occupy energy and a space in this in universe, and it's how we occupy it and how we connect with other energies that grow us, regardless of our work, job description, background, race, color, gender. Does not matter. Don't even bring that into it. It's got nothing
That's
to
right.
do with your actual energy.
That's
you
right.
know so yeah, I think that's something I'd love to I would debunk and kind of carry that burning torch into the future. You know what I mean?
Yes, brother. Yeah, and the
Yeah.
amazing part about that is that it's depending on who you're speaking with, they either embrace that or they fight against it, and that's one of the things that the biggest challenges that I face with my clients is being in a place where the person is reaching out for help but doesn't have a clue of all the things that they're missing and the way
Mm,
they need to move forward to receive that help. And yet here you are, or here we are, trying to share with them, trying to say to them, uh, there's more to life. You shouldn't be defined by your external, what other people say, or what your limiting beliefs are. That's not your definition. It's our spiritual truth, our love for ourselves, our awareness, our ability to realize there's another level to who we are and who we can be. And that's a powerful thing to be aware of, and appreciate that for you, and I am thankful for that for me. Now, when we're as a career coach, as someone that's come through the transitions that you've come through, what would you say is the one thing that you're trying to accomplish in your career? What's the most important thing for you to help other people do?
I think one thing, I mean, one of the main things that jumped to mind is first of all to get clarity. And I mean, it's a sort of maybe a sort of a vague term, but it's all around vision and purpose. And when you are focused on what you can't do, then there's no way that you're going to actually focus on what you can do.
That's right.
And and then when you are on purpose and you have a vision of your future, that is when the growth starts. And from that growing place, all is possible. So I think, as you said, my most challenging clients are the ones who desperately want to hold on to homeostasis, but at the same time, they're not satisfied with it. And to connect with them on a level where you let them know, well, listen, you drop that pebble in the pond, right? And you just, like when I was a 13-year-old looking up at the sky, I didn't have all the answers, but I didn't need to have all the answers
That's right.
because
That's
they
right.
were out there in the sky. And when you drop that pebble and those ripples start to come out and they start to ripple out into the world, trust that the answers that you want will come.
That's right.
And it may
That's
come
right.
in a completely bizarre way. I mean, the fact is, but they'll come and yeah. So I think I'd like to help people to build their lives and build their futures in a way that it really suits their values, their principles, and also it's interconnected and recognizing that the world is interconnected and yeah, and to kill off all of these uh, sexism, racism, all the homophobias, all of the disgusting type of acts that occur in the world.
Yes.
Um, so to address that on an individual basis, and then uh, with your energy stepping into that energy, you can then influence others just by being present in that energy. You know
That's
what I
right.
mean?
That's
Again,
right.
the ripples in the pond again, I think is a sort of an analogy that I keep coming back to all the time.
Beautiful. And because that starts with you, and then we circulate it out, and it exponentiates, it grows because of the people we influence, the people we help, the way we help them get to that next level in themselves. And then they help someone because they grew and became more, and they could see where they could help other people. And that is a powerful thing for us coaches, because that is our purpose. That it's not just to help ourselves learn so that we can help other people learn, but help those people get to the place where they can help the people in their lives. And that's the whole idea of the ripple, right?
Of course. I mean, as you said, I mean, like with our kids, I would like to, connect with my sons, or my wife, or my family in a way that, my dad always said, when he had certain guys coming to see him and worried about their beautiful, precious daughters going out into the world and all this kind of stuff. He said, yeah, I get that. But all you have to do is from a young age, teach your children how to think so that when they can think for themselves, they can make, um, competent, sensible decisions, and therefore the percentage of chance for them getting hurt or harmed or whatever, it gets so much less because they
Yes.
know how to assess, and they know how they feel, and they're connected. So just develop a good relationship, keep the communication open, don't judge, just listen, you know,
Right. Right.
and share, and and then the process will just kind of it would start from there, it will ripple out from there.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love that. That kind of leads me to the next thought, where I'm as coaches, we always have what other people consider to be advice, and the things that we try to coach people into believing or to stop believing. This is your limiting belief. Why do you have that? And no, that's not. You're not. Now you're lying to yourself, because I can tell. And as coaches, we can always tell when someone's lying to themselves just by the way they talk and the way they come up with excuses, and they just kind of skip over the surface, and they don't really get down to the truth of themselves. Um, to get to the truth of yourself, that leads us into a place where we have advice, or we have a tool out of our toolbox that helps people do that. And I'm curious, Mike, what would be your biggest piece of advice for someone that's facing a limiting belief in their own lives?
Yeah, so the one of the ways that I look at that is I first of all ask them to remember their wins. I ask them to remember the times when there was, again, that sense of flow, that sense of enjoyment. And in some worst case scenarios, albeit I haven't really come across them personally, but in training and speaking to other coaches, there are some people who have had very, very traumatic lives, upbringings, and they find it difficult to connect with that. But you could experience something from a book, from a film, or even if you had a traumatic upbringing and you ran from your house and you spent hours in the woods walking, and almost for a while forgot all about the crap at home and what was going on. You just wander in the woods, just in awe of nature and what was around you. Or maybe you even met, and I know, a lady or old guy sitting on a park bench, and you sat with them and you spoke to them for hours and connect with them on a level that nobody else ever did. And there's so many experiences that we have had in our lives that we just don't remember, because in memory, it's in the ether, it's there, but we haven't connected to it. And I had a call last night at a little workshop, and I was speaking to a young guy in Nigeria, on the workshop, and I asked him a question similar to that, and I asked him because he was up against a big decision and he didn't know where to go, and I said to him to connect with what in his life worked and what
Yeah.
didn't work, and he said he can't think of anything that didn't work. Right, he just can't think of it. I said, okay, you can't think of it right now, but I can guarantee to you that there was a time when there was some conflict between your parents and you and your friends, something that didn't work, and then and then you will also connect with what does work. And then once you get into the flow of remembering and connecting with what works and who you were when it works, then you start to, connect the dots a little bit, as to what state you need to be in order for things to work. And then
Yes.
we start to develop and keep building those blocks on that state and heighten that state, so that you can embrace it. Because as you said, we can't really give advice. I mean, sometimes you might say, "Hey, don't look left and right before you walk across the street." Okay. But at the same time, we really want for our clients to be able to walk away from our sessions with an experience that enlightens them, so that they feel like they are, in control of their own awareness and their own options and possibilities, and that we create for them more energy, as you said, from a place of abundance. So you have more energy because you switched off the dark, you've switched off these self-limiting sort of beliefs, and you stepped into growth and creation mode. So the energy is so much more abundant that you just
Yes.
feel like you just feel good,
Yeah.
right? You just,
Absolutely.
as somebody said, you need to be happy to be successful. You don't get happy after you're successful.
That's right.
You
That's
need
right.
to be successful. You need to be happy first. I'm sure they got situations where people talk about, oh, this happened and that happened, and I still was. I say, well, what's your definition of success then, right?
Right.
you know,
Right.
so it comes down to that. But yeah,
Beautiful, beautiful, my friend. I love the way you explained that because it's a connection to the awareness of the two things that you mentioned, the low spot and the high spot, and you have to keep in mind, in my experience, that like you said, you can't tell yourself I'll be happy when. You need to be willing to be connected to the happiness in order to get to that place, because you'll never get to that place if you don't start from a place of happiness, from a place of thankful gratitude, awareness that there is more, and that you're going to pursue it with the joy and the awareness that there is more, so that you, when you're going through, you're actually building something, because you can't build anything from a negative perspective. You can only build something from a positive perspective. Well, I shouldn't say that. You can build more negative, but in order to build something positive, you can't do it from the negative. And it's powerful in our lives to be able to come to that place and to be able to not only be aware of it for ourselves, but to teach it to others. And when I said the word advice, it was the first lesson. Grabbing the door is giving the advice, but when you open the door and step through, that's growth, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That's being aware that, okay, wait a second. The reason that I reached out to grab this door was because of that advice, but the experience of opening the door and actually growing into the message, to the truth of what's behind the door or through the door, that is the real part of life. And that's where you and I have the joy, the happiness of experiencing that when we help other people. So that is awesome, my friend. And um, to give that more power, I'm curious, what would be the thing that I haven't asked you yet that you would like to talk about?
Yeah, there's one thing that I just came to mind just as you were speaking, is that how would just to remind people and remind myself, is how attractive pain and suffering and negativity can be. It's kind of, it seems really counterintuitive. But when your body gets used to a certain mode of being, like if you're a chronic drinker or a smoker, or eat a lot of sorry, crap food and stuff like that, or you have, like you said, limiting um sense of belief, or all of that, you get to a point where you've been in that state for so long that your body actually starts to crave it and
Yeah.
become addicted to an emotion, not even to a substance, but to a particular type of emotion.
Yes.
And it becomes what I call a default mind, a default mindset, or a default emotion. So for
Yes.
me, it used to be, like, I'm not Gandalf the Great and the big, walking on water or nothing, but anger was something that was very, very attractive to me, and I didn't realize it was attractive because a sense of power, strength. It gave me a sense of purpose. It gave me a sense of purity, right, and arrogance, and like, yes, this is mine. I will have it. You know what I mean? Because I'm angry. But and stepping and unlearning that showed me that how used to my body was of that type of emotion,
Yes.
is that I would start to imagine myself in situations where I could be angry, just to feel more normal. Right.
Right. I've been there, done that. Been there, done that, my friend.
And I was just realizing, look, exactly, these are circuits that are wired into you, as they call hardwired into you, that make you feel normal. Good. I had a temper tantrum today. I knocked a few heads, and now I feel pretty normal.
Right.
And you're
Right.
thinking, okay, but what productive was that, right? So it's really recognizing the levels that your own mind and body will go to keep you in that homeostasis state. And don't let your own mind and body trick you into believing that what you are doing, stepping away from these damaging, limiting self, belief patterns, and don't let your mind and body trick you into thinking, okay, I can blow up every now and again. That's human. That's normal. I mean, it is human for sure. Don't get me wrong. It is human, but you can be better than that, right?
That's right.
What the
That's
path
right.
that you're on towards releasing that negative energy and bringing it into something positive and growing and beautiful and sharing with others. That's the energy you want. That's the real pure energy that you want. That can't be replaced by booze, drugs, food, sex, anything. That is something that's so fundamental that you want to go for that, and don't stop. Don't stop on your journey.
That's right. Beautiful, my friend. I love the way you said that because it makes me think of my spirituality. Uh, where I come from, I have a very very strong connection to my spiritual self, and that came from a lot of struggle. That came from a lot of knocking heads in the past. Where I embraced hate for well over 20 years on a level where I actually started to enjoy causing mental and physical pain to other people. I actually craved it. If I didn't have, if I hadn't been in a fight that day, I hadn't had a good day. And that's not, like you mentioned, that is human, but it's not the way to grow and live. And when I came through that and the contrast of knowing that I had done that, it I could have went through a lot of shame. But what it allowed me to do was to recognize the opposite, the spiritual love that is the truth of who we are and what we're supposed to do and be and teach. And when you shared that with me, it just made me go back into my own self and realize that, wow, I was a real monster back in the day. And it was one of those things where I'm so thankful for you to be able to bring out that in your own way, because that's going to connect people to you, to your message, to who you are, what you teach, and why you teach it. And it's also going to be one of those things that we can only reach so many people. There's only so many people I can reach. There's only so many people you can reach. But we want to be between us, we want to reach as many people as we possibly can to change their lives for the better, to teach them about that spiritual energy, that love, that self awareness, that self appreciation, and to get them to see the difference. Because the contrast, as spirits having a physical experience, we are looking for that contrast in order to be able to teach the truth of the spiritual love. And that's a powerful thing that you just shared with me, my friend. I really really appreciate that. And we're getting close. We're going on well over half an hour, so I'm going to put up your website here, and I'm going to ask you to share any promotions or anything that you'd like to have people connect you with, and to help you reach out to those people, and maybe help some more people with any thoughts you might have. Go ahead, my friend.
Dean. So yeah, I mean, as you say, my website has all of my email address, and it has some connections to some videos I've done on YouTube there. So it's got stuff on leadership and how to be a powerful, credible leader without being a bully. And I'm just starting to upload more videos onto that.
Good.
I have a presence on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and all that kind of stuff. So people just, yeah, feel free to. Most coaches, I do complimentary discovery calls so that we can have just a simple conversation, no sales or anything like that, just having a chat to see where you are, find out how we are, just like basically building any kind of fertile, growing relationship, just to see what the other person is like. And I do workshops usually every month, all around confidence, overwhelm, anxiety, and for me, my intention is not really to stop on any one particular path. It's going to be constant growth, and the more that I can evolve and grow from. And so yeah, don't be shy. Just reach out, and
Cool.
I'll be happy
Awesome.
to, sorry, have a dialogue with anyone.
Awesome. Really appreciate that, Mike. And I was very, very thankful to have you here today, because I know you're going to help lots of people in a powerful way. And you and I, as friends, we're going to carry on to have a good relationship, and to work together and help each other grow into our greatest self. So thank you, my brother. Really, really happy to have you here. And I hope you have a great day.
You too, Dean, and thank you very much for having me. It's been incredible. I felt really warm and relaxed and welcomed in this environment. You had a chance for me to articulate and to share. So appreciate that.
Awesome, my brother. Thank you. Have a great day.